Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sync Up Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things OneDrive. OneDrive is the home for all of the files that you care about most, and we are here to take you behind the scenes to get the insights and the knowledge to make your experience and your users' experiences better. My name is Stephen Rice, and I'm a Principal Product Manager on the OneDrive team, and as always, I am joined by my friend Arvind Mishra.
Hello, everyone. I'm Arvind, and I'm also a Principal Product Manager on the OneDrive team. Today, I'm super excited. We are going deep into the world of Sync, from what's new and amazing to how it's making your lives easier. Sync is one of those things that we all use, and maybe we know it, maybe we don't, but it changes our lives. One thing, Stephen, before we jump in and meet our guests today, I'm so excited these days. You know, the OneDrive team, design, engineering, product, we've been firing on all cylinders this summer, and we've been releasing all kinds of great stuff to customers. We've been talking about it on this podcast and through our tech blog. And you know what? There's even more coming into the fall. And so there is so much great stuff that's coming that we are going to make a live show of it. We're going to have all kinds of important people showing all kinds of important things. Tell us about it, Stephen.
Yeah, this is exciting. We get to do like an ad read, but it's like our own ad. Coming on October 3rd at 10 a.m. Pacific time or 1 p.m. Eastern time, we have the event, Microsoft OneDrive, the future of file management is here. I am, like I said, so excited for this. This is the OneDrive product team, including one of the guests you're about to hear later today. And they are going to talk about and showcase what the next generation of file management looks like in M365, from new enhancements to new features, faster access, all the things that you care about OneDrive. It's going to be awesome. Plus, of course, it wouldn't be a product event in 2023 if we didn't have some AI plans sneaking in there as well. So check that out. We'll have a link in the description of this podcast and in our various posts and blogs. You're definitely going to start hearing more about it if you haven't already. But let's get to our guests. So we've got two folks joining us today to talk about Sync. We have Gaia Carini and Andrei Esipov. Gaia, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm thrilled to be here. Back on the Sync Up podcast after several years.
Yeah.
I'm a principal group product manager on the OneDrive Sync team. So my team basically focuses on everything OneDrive on desktop across Windows and Mac OS for all consumer and commercial users. So hundreds of millions of users across all of those. And then also we'll talk more about how we're bringing some of the superpowers of the desktop to the web experience, which I'm also really excited about.
That is awesome.
Andrei, tell us about yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andrei Esipov, and I'm a principal product manager on the OneDrive and List team. I work very closely with Gaia, and my area of focus is all things sync and performance. So that's what keeps me up at night. Super excited to be chatting with you guys today.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to this. Andrei, you are the person I always go to when I have questions about performance on desktop and all things related. So I'm super excited to hear how we are making OneDrive faster than ever. But before we can talk about that, we have way more important things to talk about. It's a little bit of fun with our icebreaker question for this week. So Guy, I'm going to start with you, but what is a food that everyone else seems to love, but you just dislike strongly?
Yeah, I feel like that's an easy one. I feel like I got very strong reactions on this. It would be pickles. I really dislike pickles. Although I know there's other people like me. But it's funny because I have a group of friends who started with me at Microsoft, and they always make fun of me and send me all the memes of all the pickle things all the time. But yeah, they're not my favorite. So
I'm with you. That would actually be my answer, I think, as well. Pickles, I think their worst offense is even if I get a sandwich and there were pickles on it at one point in time, I can take the pickles off. But I still taste pickle. Like once it is there, it just ruins the food.
Yeah, 100% agreed.
I think for myself, though, I'm gonna have to go with tomatoes. I've just never, something about the texture of tomatoes doesn't agree with me. I did like ketchup is okay. I think which makes me a child because ketchup is just like sugar, but that's fine. Like I can at least take them off of stuff, but tomatoes never do it for me.
Oh man, you both are going through my garden at this point, and you won't. It's more for me, I guess. So, Andrei, what is your food here?
I would have to say olives, though it's a bit of a contradiction because even though I don't really like olives, I love olive oil. And I love to put it on basically everything that I eat. But eating just raw marinated olives is just not my cup of tea.
Gotcha. I love olives in a martini, I was going to say.
That's true.
I have a niece who I think we had to stop her, but she would just eat olives straight out of the can, which is not the healthiest thing because they're like salt laden.
I was going to say the olives coming out of a can. I'm like, I've only ever had olives coming out of a jar. I don't know if that makes me elitist or what, but like out of a can might frighten me. So for me, it's bananas. I don't like bananas. I don't like the smell. If I just get a whiff of it, even like a little taste, I can immediately taste it. It's like I feel like I'm like just hypersensitive to it. Just the smell. The smell makes me nauseous. But I get it. A lot of people like bananas. I want to ask you both a different question because I think you both have such interesting backgrounds, but we're both kids at one point. And so I would love to know from each of you, when you were both kids, what was a cartoon that you used to watch that you have great affinity for and you still remember it fondly today? I'll kick it over to you, Gaia, first, because I'd love to know what were you watching in Italy back when you were a child?
Yeah, that's a good question. Briefly, I lived in the US and I had Cartoon Network, which was awesome. But then we moved back and we didn't have it. So my options were more limited. I don't know. One that comes to mind is probably I loved watching Tom and Jerry.
Good choice.
I thought that was really fun.
What about you, Andre?
Oh, my favorite by far was Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles.
Yes.
Yeah, I used to dress up as Leonardo and run around the yard with my fake little wooden sword, pretending like I was saving the world. But yeah, that was by far my favorite.
Super cool. So fair to say that Leonardo was your favorite of the 4 Ninja Turtles then?
Yeah.
No, Donatello is far superior. What about you, Arvind?
I would say one of my favorites is probably Robotech. I think for me, that was like, I'd been introduced to anime before, but like that was the first sort of like adult anime where there was like, it was like, if you've ever seen Robotech, like the original series, it was like, it's very much like a soap opera with giant robots. And I loved it as a 6th grader or 7th grader, whenever it came out. So what about you, Stephen?
Mine is similar. I think it was about 6th grade, I got really into a show called Zoids, which was kind of like a Transformers knockoff, and that it was like really, I mean, most shows at that point were like just children's product placement. But it was a show about large mechanized animals that people would like ride, and there was they had like competitions and fights in them. And it was similar, I think, to Robotech. It was just like, large mechanical creatures and things fighting each other, which was just awesome. And then you could, go down to Toys R Us and buy the models and toys and bring them home and build them and smash them yourself. And, everything you expect out of a good, like, 80s, 90s cartoon.
Yeah, it's like a mashup of robots and dinosaurs, right? So with Zoids.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we could talk about cartoons all day long with me and Steven for sure, but we actually have to talk about the stuff that our audience wants to hear about. So I'd love to talk about what's going on with productivity and innovation on the Windows side of things. Like, File Explorer is something that a ton of our customers use all the time, and that's the way they find and they organize their stuff. So how is that experience going to get better for the masses that are using File Explorer?
That's an awesome question. So last year, with the version of Windows 11 that released in the fall, we added a bunch of new features that I think really supercharge File Explorer with new OneDrive capabilities. Starting from the new home view, that started having the favorites and recent files from M365, including locations that aren't synced on your device. And also showing activity, if you mentioned me or commented or something, that would show up straight in File Explorer, which is really cool. And then we also added this component we call the OneDrive Sync Flyout. And basically what that is if you go to the OneDrive node in File Explorer, you'll see this cloud on the top right corner of File Explorer. And if you click on that, you'll see the status, you'll see different ways to get to settings and the recycle bin online. And then we can use that to tell users about errors and progress and all of that. We also shipped some changes to what we call the namespace. So kind of how OneDrive shows up in the left nav of File Explorer and the address bar to really be OneDrive first, based on a lot of user feedback we had heard over the years. So that's kind of what we shipped last fall.
That is an awesome set of work. And I love, we had Lesha on for a podcast and Michaela, who all talked about all these amazing features we're doing with like OneDrive Gen 3 and how we're making the web experience better. And I love how we're bringing those same experiences down into File Explorer. So, our desktop users get those same types of things. So you kind of mentioned home view. What are some of the other kind of things we're going to be bringing into kind of the File Explorer experience going forward?
So yeah, the goal is, to bring as much of the innovation that's on the web as possible down to File Explorer for our desktop users, because we know some users are just living and breathing in File Explorer, and so we want them to get all that goodness too. In terms of what's coming, still on the home view, one of the key things that's already in Insiders and coming, with the fall release in September is recommended files also in the home view and some additional refresh of the home view. And then we also have this really cool new details pane. So if you select a file, you can open a pane on the side of File Explorer, and that'll show you the preview of the file, including if it's not on the machine and it's just an online only file. You can see activity, you can see related files, related conversations. If, for example, you've pasted that, file in a Teams chat or you've sent an email about it. And so that's the next step that we're bringing to File Explorer users, but that's just the beginning. We really want to bring more and more of the features that bring the power of M365 files to our desktop users on Windows 11.
That's really great that we're bringing, because a couple weeks ago, we talked about, like Steven said, we talked about all the great things that are coming to the OneDrive web experience are already here. And so bringing that functionality to Windows Explorer, because my stuff is just scattered to the wind. And so being able to have that view of like for you and recommended files, that's going to make my life easier because, I no longer have to kind of care where things are, right? Well, switching gears, talk to me a little bit about some of the sharing updates, the sharing dialogues. I know Sen covered some of that a little bit ago, but talk to me about some of just the core UI enhancements that we're making in the world of Windows and Sync.
On the sharing front, like you said and talked about, there's a lot of improvements to the sharing experience, the manage access experience. And so because we're using the shared control across both Windows and actually Mac OS, we have all of those changes for users to experience across File Explorer and Finder. But the other thing we did is we heard from customers that there's some common actions like copy link or manage access. And so we made those easier to just access really quickly straight from the context menu without having to first click share and then go to that option in the sharing dialog. So just really focus on making users more efficient and productive.
Yeah, I love all of these things. And not just because I'm the sharing guy, but just I use the copy link command in my Sync client or in my File Explorer now just constantly. What are some of the other things we're trying to do on the kind of OneDrive desktop client to improve kind of the core experiences in UX?
So we've embarked on a journey, I think starting last year, where we started moving more and more of our core UI to React Native. And just that allows us to polish up the experience, look at ways to refresh the experience. And then also once we have that, just move quicker on changes, which we're really excited, to be more agile and fast. So we started with some of the key experiences like the settings. We had this really ugly old school dialogue for our settings and we totally redid it. And I think it's way more clear. We've highlighted things that are, more common settings, hidden things that are more advanced settings, just surfaced information in different ways. And I think that's been awesome to see. We also redid the folder backup or known folder move wizard, which is, something that's really important for our users who are opting in to back up their files. We redid that in a way that's also, more user-friendly. We're not done there. We have a lot of other surfaces we're working on, like the Activity Center, which is when you click the icon, you have this little flyout that comes out. We're redoing that one. redoing our first run experience and really all of the sync UX to be React Native based, so that it is easier for us to update and iterate quickly and deliver better experiences and features.
Am I allowed to be a little bit sad that I won't get to see the 2012 era's settings window anymore? I feel like we're slowly eliminating all those types of dialog boxes and tabs and all those things.
Yeah, we are. My favorite thing, I don't know if you've played with this, but is when you click the OneDrive icon, there's this little gear animation when you click on the settings option. It's just the most fun to click on because it just rotates and it's just really satisfying.
Little moments of delight.
Here, I don't know if this is going to come through my microphone, but I'm just going to click furiously because that is really satisfying. That is now my new favorite detail as well. I'm so glad you shared that.
Yeah.
I'm going to take us back a little bit on this kind of next piece, Gaia. So if I could think back to I think the last Ignite that I personally attended was, now I'm not sure. It would have been 2019, 2020 because it was pre-pandemic. I remember one of the big sets of questions we were getting from customers was how the OneDrive sync experience will work in virtualized environments. And I know over the past couple of years, we've shipped some improvements there. We've made OneDrive support available inside of things like FS Logics. What are some things we're doing to improve our kind of virtualized environment experience for OneDrive?
I know this is a common one for a lot of customers I talk to. We've added support several years ago for a remote desktop session. So when you're, in the full desktop experience, we do require FS Logics, which is this component that helps you roam your profile across different sessions. But one of the common things we heard about is, well, what about remote applications? So that's a scenario where instead of accessing the full desktop experience, the user is just accessing a specific application running in the remote session. And until now, we haven't supported that with OneDrive, but people want to be able to open and save files to OneDrive from those apps. And so we've been working closely with some of our partners to deliver support both for Citrix and for Azure Virtual Desktop environments. And so the Citrix one is currently in public preview, and the Azure Virtual Desktop one has been in private preview for the last few months. And so stay tuned for an update really soon on the public preview coming for that too.
Those are both awesome. I find virtualized environments, they're either one of those things that you're listening to the podcast right now and you are pumping your fist because you are so excited because that is critical to your business. Or, and I'm not going to name names like Arvind, but you're just okay, this maybe isn't the most important.
You got to talk about the virtualized environments. I just don't know enough about them. So
yeah, it was interesting because I was talking to a customer yesterday and they were saying how half of their company is on, laptops and half of them lives fully in a virtualized environment. And so can also be split across different companies.
Yeah, it's one of the things that's a critical part of what we do. And I'm so glad we're doing more here. So I want to kind of take us into our second topic. So if you've ever joined the OneDrive customer office hours or attended a session at Ignite or SharePoint conference or M365 Collab conference, you will find, many folks from the OneDrive team there. We'll be talking, about the latest features, the latest things that are going on. And without fail, there is nothing, if not a million questions about the OneDrive Sync client. Either people having questions, having issues, wanting help, to the point where anytime we do a customer thing, there's the question we ask in terms of okay, so we've got to make sure someone is there to talk about sync questions. So when it comes to addressing kind of the top sets of customer feedback that we are getting, Gaia, what are some of the big things that we're looking to do and improve there?
So the top one that comes to mind is around the space of accidental deletes and making it easier to restore files. I was actually giving a talk at the M365 conference earlier this year in May. And one of the questions as I was going through my demos, I asked how many people, in this case, mostly admins in the crowd, have run into cases where users accidentally deleted files. And basically almost every hand in the room went up. And when I showed some of the improvements, that's the things that got the most excitement. So it's definitely an area, that comes up a lot when I talk to customers, both at conferences and in different calls and other settings. One of the things our team has been investing in is ways to prevent accidental deletes from happening. And then if they do happen, just making it easier to restore the files that were deleted. starting from what we're doing to prevent deletes, there's a few things that either ship soon or are coming really soon. The first one is a few years ago, we had added some dialogues that we called the first delete experience. So teaching users about deletions. But one of the problems with those was that they show up after you delete a file and they show up for all deletes. And the pain point we really heard from customers was around shared files. So, that could be in a library you're syncing, or you've added, a shortcut to a certain folder in someone else's OneDrive, whatever that is. People want to make sure they're not accidentally deleting other people's files, especially. And so we're in the process of shipping a new set of confirmation dialogues that replaces the original ones. And those will happen before the fact, so before the deletes happen, more as a confirmation. And it's really focused on the shared files, which is where we see the biggest pain point. So that's the first thing. The other one that recently shipped is related to add to OneDrive, which we think, for a bunch of different reasons is the best way to sync your files because it'll, be across devices. And we've made a lot of improvements on the architecture side. But one of the things we heard about from customers is there are some edge cases where if you were trying to use the delete, just by deleting the shortcut in File Explorer, that's supposed to just remove the shortcut. But there were some race conditions or, edge cases where that would actually cause the files to be deleted. And so we just closed a big gap there. And that recently shipped to production. And so we're really hoping that addresses some of the feedback there.
I love all of these things. I get the delete confirmations as well constantly, and I look forward to the new round to make this even better. In the spirit of, what's the phrase? Like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure is, I think, the description, or the saying, the phrase, whatever you want to call it. So you described a bunch of the great work we're doing around prevention, which will be fantastic. But in those cases where, someone still does delete a file unintentionally, what are we doing to try and improve the kind of post-deletion, the cure, if you will?
So the first thing is something we actually shipped earlier this year. Before, when you deleted something, let's say you deleted a folder from File Explorer Finder, the folder had 100 files. What we would do is delete those 100 files first, and then the last thing we would do is delete the folder. So now, if you went in the recycle bin on the web, you would see a folder and then 100 files, and you would have to restore each of them. Instead, we moved to a model where it's more tops down, meaning we delete the folder with all the files. So that in the web recycle bin, you just see that folder and you can restore the whole folder versus especially if you have thousands and thousands of files in this folder, even hundreds of thousands, it was just super painful to try to restore. And so this makes it a lot easier to just restore that whole folder to where it was.
Oh, God, just as a public service announcement, when things are put in the recycle bin, how long do they sit in there for customers to go in and restore them in case they accidentally do delete them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I believe the answer is 93 days.
You have 93 days to recant your deletion, folks.
And then the other thing, speaking of the recycle bin that we're looking at right now, we're doing some prototyping, is related to the local recycle bin in this case. So today, if you have files that are actually downloaded on your machine, you delete them, they show up in the recycle bin as you expect. But for files, like a lot of files in your OneDrive, they might be online only. And so when you delete them, then they're no longer visible in your recycle bin locally. They're only in the web recycle bin. And so we're looking at ways we can actually surface those online only files also in the local recycle bin so that if you do, want to restore deleted them by accident, you can go and restore them locally too.
Excellent. That is a lot of stuff. Guy, I have to say, you're a champ here. You're doing a ton of heavy lifting, going through this very important topic, sync. We're talking about virtualized environments. I love it. It's my favorite topic. But I want to talk to you about something that, I think I feel like I've been working on folder backup or known folder moves for a long time, except we used to back it up to like shares on a server somewhere. Now we're doing it to OneDrive. A lot of companies are using this. How is this experience getting better for companies and for customers, individual users? How are we improving KFM or folder backup, as I like to call it?
Yeah, I know this is something that a lot of customers rely on to make sure files are safe. If something happens to the device or someone's going through a device refresh, all the files are there. In terms of improvements, one that I mentioned earlier is just redoing the KFM dialog, both if you're opting in or basically if you're just looking at the settings. We redid that from scratch on using React Native and just with a more modern design. Some other improvements we've made, we heard from people who are opting out of KFM. We hope that you don't opt out, but in case you do, one of the pieces of feedback was we didn't allow you to move the files back to the original location. And so they would just stay in your OneDrive. And we've made an update to the opt-out flow to allow you to choose what you want to do with the files that are in those folders. And then another one is, a few years ago, we released this setting. It's controlled by policy where you can exclude certain files, whether it's like by file name or by file type, from syncing. So a common example in the context of known folder move is LNK files, which aren't super, useful across devices because they tend to be really specific to that machine, like your desktop shortcuts, or PST files or some other types of files. So we had added that, but we didn't have a good way to surface that to the end user other than the icon in File Explorer or Finder. And so we just added in the settings experience a way for users to be able to tell what policies admins have added for them related to this. So that's an improvement. And then building on this functionality, we're also bringing the ability to exclude folders, which I know has been a common ask, building on top of the file type one exclude this specific folder or a folder that matches this pattern. That's something we're bringing really soon to admins to be able to configure.
And I would imagine like this level of control, like whether it was excluding folders, excluding different file types, especially massive like database type file types, would increase performance. But we're doing a ton under the hood as well to increase performance when it comes to syncing and backing up, correct?
Yeah, performance is definitely super top of mind for our team. Another common theme I hear about when I talk to customers is related to the file count limit we have in our documentation of 300,000 files in terms of what you can sync. I'll say that is a soft limit. It really depends on, the structure of your library. There's a bunch of factors, how powerful your machine is, all of that. But it is something we know that, we need to scale to more files because that's, a lot of customers have way more files than that. And so in the last year or so, we've been working on a bunch of work that's, I would say, prerequisites to expanding that number. So for example, we redid how we track, basically the database we use locally to track changes on files and their metadata to be more efficient. And we just, finished rolling that out. We also changed how we verify whether all files are in sync with the cloud, because that was not super efficient, especially with really large file counts. We also are doing a bunch of work specifically on Mac OS to optimize how we detect that a file has changed locally, because we know there's several scenarios that can lead to high resource utilization. And so we've been working on all of that, and now we've started shipping some of the actual improvements building off of that to reduce some of the common symptoms we hear about. So some of them are like high CPU utilization or just like a long time processing changes, our favorite state in the sync client, just when there's just like taking time to detect a change and upload that to the cloud. And so that's something our team is super focused on. Our goal is to get to at least 400,000 by end of this year. But we're not done there. We know we want to scale, to 1 million and beyond. So, lots of work ahead of us, but I feel really good about the work the team has done so far.
Yeah, I think by far one of my favorite things, like everything we've just covered, Gaia, is just the amount of, I'm just going to say listening that the team does on just Like we just ran through what must have been like 30 to 50 different customer pain points that, people have raised feedback, they are struggling with, they get processing changes and they write an angry email, or maybe a nice email. You never know. I'll say, having not being on the sync team, I am in awe at the amount of listening that the team does and the like results that we turn around and turn in. Like this is just an amazing set of work. Listeners aren't able to do it, but I will say thank you on behalf of everyone who's listening because this is fantastic.
Yeah, and thanks, of course, to the team. I think that might be an advantage of getting so many questions and feedback at the conferences and various other office hours and all of that. So we're really happy to listen to customers.
For folks who are listening, other than, sending Arvind or I messages or tagging it with SyncUp, what are the best ways to send feedback to the product team so that we can see it and consider? What are the tools we use?
So there is an in-product send feedback option that goes into one of our tools where we then, have a bunch of processing we do to identify common themes. And then the team looks at that every month to identify, the top things that are bubbling up. We also have the monthly office hours, which I've been really enjoying and attending every month. And it's awesome to see, so many customers joining, sharing feedback, asking questions. That's been a really valuable time, especially because it's every month. Those are the top two that come to mind.
All right. So we were talking, actually, this is related kind of to your question, Arvind. So we were talking about cartoons earlier. This is going to be the most ham-fisted segue I think I've ever done, but that's okay. We were talking about cartoons. And as we all know, cartoons have superheroes and superheroes have superpowers. So Andre, we finally get to kind of delve into your brain. How are we bringing the superpowers of sync, do you see what I did there, to the web? That was
very slick.
This is Project Nucleus. So just to kind of start with, because Nucleus is a very fancy word. Andre, can you just talk a little bit like what is Nucleus? What are we trying to solve before we get into like the actual specifics of it all?
Yeah, of course. I'm super, super excited to chat about this. We've been talking a lot about, focusing, improving the performance of our sync app. But beyond just looking at the sync client, we're always relentlessly working on optimizing the performance of our web applications, such as Microsoft Lists or OneDrive, because we want to ensure that our customers can get their work done faster and more efficiently. And so over about a year ago, we started looking into how we can take the performance of web applications like OneDrive or Microsoft Lists or SharePoint to the next level, beyond just making tactical optimizations that can sometimes be deemed as trivial. For example, using a more efficient JavaScript library, or reducing the size of the page, or optimizing how we load and render images. Of course, all of that is really, really important, right? And it all results in faster web applications. But we really wanted to make a breakthrough in performance for our customers. And we definitely didn't want to benefit just a small subset of our customers who are, for example, just using super fast fiber connections. We wanted all of our customers on all kinds of networks to get those performance improvements. Customers using mobile hotspots, customers using go-go Wi-Fi on an airplane, customers in a corporate office using high-speed fiber, you name it. Our goal was really to ensure that every single customer, no matter what device they have or what network they're using, could get the very, very best experience every single time when they used our web applications. And so to accomplish that, we needed to kind of find a solution, right? How can we actually make that breakthrough? It was, it was a difficult task, because every time you use a web app, you have to face with the reality that you have to retrieve some data to power that web experience from the cloud. And of course, that's when you run into network bottleneck issues, into server load issues. All kinds of stuff can go wrong that can slow down the experience. And our solution was to make that rich data available on your local device. So instead of retrieving that data from the cloud and having to deal with those network constraints. And that allows us to retrieve data almost instantaneously, because now it's stored and served from the local device. And we all know that the OneDrive Sync app is an amazing and powerful application that millions of our customers from around the world rely on every single day to get their work done on their Windows or Mac devices. it does so by ensuring that all your files are available, right, across all your different devices. But we asked ourselves a question. We have this amazing product, but how can we leverage that sync mechanism that powers the OneDrive Sync app and extend it to be able to sync not just files, but all that rich data that powers our existing web experiences? And the end result of that was what we called Project Nucleus internally. And it allows us to power first experiences in Microsoft lists that you can already try today, and soon in OneDrive. And it will allow us to deliver consistently fast web performance on all kinds of networks and devices, and also enable brand new capabilities that I'll also chat with you briefly about. And all of that is really accomplished by securely storing that rich web app data on the device and serving it locally rather than from the cloud service. So in a nutshell, that's what kind of Project Nucleus is and our journey to get to that solution.
I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but so when you talk about, storing, the web app on the local device and all these things that go above my head, if I'm going to paraphrase and make sure I'm understanding correctly, I open up my web browser and I type in OneDrive.com. That's the consumer, but I go to my enterprise, my Microsoft OneDrive, my enterprise Microsoft OneDrive. But I go to access my files pre-Nucleus. My computer sends off stuff to the cloud, the internet. It loads in a bunch of JavaScript, a bunch of images, and all those different pieces. They have to come down to my machine, and then we can render beautiful UI. And with Nucleus, a lot of that, the backend pieces, the things that make the website work, are on my machine, where I can get them instantly, no download required, and it just makes it that much faster. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, exactly. You can almost think of it as having like a mini SharePoint server running on your device. That's always there, and that's always ready to serve data to the web application that you're interacting with. But yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, in a nutshell, we make the data available locally, so it's always available for the web app to use, and not rely on the internet connection or a connection to the service to actually get the data.
Like just to make sure that I understand this, because I'm more of a tech Luddite than Steven is. Like, you got to boil it down to level Arvind, I think here. I'm on a plane, the internet goes out, and I'm using OneDrive Home for. I have an enterprise account, but I go to OneDrive Home in my browser. That just works automatically, like everything that I've taken offline that I would see in my file explorer, I now see in my OneDrive Home experience through my browser.
Yep, exactly. It's when you see it, it almost feels like magic, but that's exactly what's actually happening.
It is magic. It is. It feels like it is magic. It's the future.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, not every single functionality will be available when you're totally disconnected from the network. For example, there's no way for you to, for example, upload a new file, right? But you'll be able to work with your file collection, move files around, create new folders, rename them, open files that you actually have stored locally, navigate the app, so everything just works.
Like, and when I edit documents or move them around, when I get back to an internet connection, like, even though I worked through this browser experience in an offline state, it's all just going to sync automatically back to the mothership. Yeah,
exactly. You got it.
That's amazing.
You said, Andre, that this is going to make the OneDrive web experience faster. So let's ignore the plane scenario. Like, what sort of speed increases are we seeing if I'm, using, if I have Project Nucleus set up, or, it's all working on my machine?
Yeah, so right now we're seeing close to 5x improvement to the speed of the core operations that you might perform on a daily basis inside of the app. Loading your file collection, navigating from one folder to another, sorting your file collection, renaming files, creating new folders. So all of that is close to 5x faster. And then, like I mentioned previously, what's more impressive is that this is not the best case scenario. This is a common scenario. So now every single customer should experience this performance improvement. Mobile connection, high-speed connection, doesn't matter. Everything will just feel a lot faster.
This is one of those moments where, like, when you get up on stage and say, hey, I am going to make all of your web operations 5x faster, that is kind of insane. Huge props to the team for that.
Yeah, exactly. And then again, like we had to look outside the box, right, to be able to deliver the magnitude of improvements that I'm talking about now. So yeah, like the team is fully invested, and we're trying to optimize the experience of our customers as much as we can. Yeah, when it comes to performance.
As a user, what do I need to do in order to take advantage of these types of performance improvements? Is there anything special I do, or do I just need, OneDrive on my computer?
Yeah, so in majority of the cases, this will work out of the box without you having to do anything, as long as you are an active OneDrive user and you have a OneDrive sync client running in your machine, and you're obviously signed in. So really, that's the extent of the prerequisites to actually get those improvements and be able to work with your files inside of the browser when you're offline. So very simple setup.
That feels like a very low bar to get this value.
I mean, you should already have the sync client installed, as we've talked about.
Yeah,
indeed.
Exactly. Yeah.
What sort of new features are coming down the line for the kind of this space? What other features are going to become available as part of the Project Nucleus?
Yeah, so another exciting feature that I'd love to kind of talk about is files on demand. Of course, you're all familiar with files on demand if you've been using sync client for any number of years. Yeah, well, files on demand has been a staple of OneDrive sync client, and it allows you to make certain files or folders always available offline on your device, whether you're connected to a network or not. Or likewise, you can also free up space on your device and then convert your locally available files into cloud-only files. You can still see them in your File Explorer or Finder, but you'll first need to download them, re-download it again if you want to open them and work with them. So till now, that feature has been a desktop-only feature, right? It only worked on a Windows device or Mac OS device that was running the sync client. Well, now we are bringing files on demand to the web. So you'll be able to make your files available offline or free up space directly from inside the browser or inside of Teams if you're working with the Files app inside of the Teams. Once it's become available for all of you to try, a great exercise for you to do would be to open File Explorer on the left side of your screen or Finder, and then open the browser with OneDrive loaded on the other side of the screen, and then try to perform these kind of operations in the browser. For example, click on a file and select Make File Available Offline. So the icon will instantly change in the browser to indicate that, that file is indeed now on your device. And then if you look on the File Explorer on the left side, the icon will be updated instantaneously as well. So the sync states will be perfectly in alignment across your device and the browser.
Sorry, you're breaking my brain again, Andre, when we start talking about like in my web browser, I will mark a file available as offline.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I have two worlds. I used to be secure in the knowledge that there was the desktop and that was my local machine. Yeah. And then there was my browser and that was the cloud, and they're different things. And now they're the same or they're combined. And I am very excited. And
these are the superpowers.
Yeah. I'm totally going to try this on Steven's machine.
You're just going to confuse me even more, except you won't, because it's just there and it just works, which is, I think, the even more amazing part.
Yeah, we wanted to ensure that our customers don't have to context switch, right, to perform common operations like that, right, like making a file available offline or freeing up space. That obviously leads to task efficiency as well, and it leads to a consistency, right, of experiences across all these different surfaces. So I think it's going to be a big win with the customers, and they'll love it.
Andre, I've got one more question for you, and I'm worried I might blow my own mind if that makes sense. But we talked about how Project Nucleus is going to make web faster. We've talked about the sync client. Does this work for Teams too? Like if I look at my files in the files browser inside of Teams, is this also getting faster?
Yeah, absolutely. If you work with your files inside of the Teams client, that experience will also get faster. So the Files tab on the left-hand side of the Teams client, all of that will be powered by Nucleus, and as a result, will be much faster. And also, all of the different files that your team is collaborating on in a given Teams channel, that will also be supercharged, right, with Nucleus. So you'll get the same benefits there as well.
That is, it's amazing.
It's an amazing set of features and so much value. Even I sort of understand all the value that's here, and that's saying something. So thank you for taking us through that. I do want to talk to you about one particular feature. I feel like this feature gets applause all the time when we show it off. I'm like, well, like this, it seems so basic, but like everyone loves it. It's called Open in App. Can you please explain to the audience like why this is such a groundbreaking feature that I often just take for granted?
Yeah, for sure. And then for those not familiar with what Open in App is it's a simple feature that allows you to open any non-Office file in your desktop application directly from within the browser. Rather than launching it in an online file preview, that's very limiting. So we've heard a lot of requests from our customers who want to be able to edit PDF files or work with, AutoCAD files, using the advanced desktop apps that they have installed right on their devices, rather than using great but limited online previewer that we have. And so that is essentially what Open in App in a nutshell does, right? It allows you to open the app from your browser in the desktop application. And there's a number of kind of nice benefits to that feature as well. One that I really want to call out is that it does not require you to sync a library beforehand if you wanted to open a particular file in a document library that we've never visited before. And that also works across Mac and Windows. There are some exceptions, though, so not every single file will be supported through this Open in App feature. So, for example, a special exception is an executable or .exe file, which can potentially be malicious if the user opens it directly. So instead of us launching, desktop app and opening that file directly, instead we open the folder that the file is stored in, and then let the user decide whether they want to proceed with actually opening that file or not.
Just to summarize, because this took me a second to get my head wrapped around it, was previously I'd be in my browser, I would see like a PDF or AutoCAD file that was sitting in a SharePoint document library somewhere. When I clicked on it, it would open up a viewer in my browser. It can do anything other than like view that particular file type, like Zoom or whatever. I couldn't actually edit it. Now I just say Open an App. It opens up AutoCAD or my PDF editor. I edit it. I don't have to like drag and drop it somewhere. I can just edit it in place, and it just saves automatically back to the document library or to my OneDrive if that's where it's located. And so it's basically saving me about like 10 steps now moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all about, improving task efficiency, right? We want to give our customers the tools, right, to accomplish their task right where they are at the moment, rather than having to context switch, navigate to a different application to accomplish what should be a trivial task.
One last question for you, Andre. When will Open in App be available for customers to start using?
So we're looking to launch a preview later this year, so stay tuned for more specific dates, but we're very excited for our customers to give it a go.
Excellent. I understand we might be showing some of it off at the October event that Stephen was talking about at the very beginning of the show. So
very exciting.
Yeah, perhaps.
All righty. Well, we are at the end of our show. I really want to thank Andre and Gaia, our amazing guests. They took so much technical stuff and explained it so that even someone like myself, who's not as technically versant as my partner, Stephen, even I understood it. And so I know our audience is going to be super stoked to listen to that.
Is that the new tagline for this podcast, Arvind? So easy, Arvind can understand it?
I think so. It should be, because I've got a base level of understanding here. So, but that said, we want to thank our guests. And so, Gaia, talk to us. Where can folks learn a little bit more about you or connect with you if they want?
Yeah, sure. So if you want to reach out on LinkedIn, you can find me. The username is Gaia Carini, so my first name and my last name. And then you can also, I know I answer a bunch of questions on Twitter, so you can find me at Carini, so my last name G, Carini G. Both of those places work.
Awesome. What about you, Andre?
For me, LinkedIn is probably the best place to reach me. And you can find me by looking up my first name, followed by my last name. Very simple.
Fantastic. If you want to learn more about OneDrive, get the latest and greatest, you can check out the blog at aka.ms/OneDrive/blog. There's a lot of great content that the team is always posting there. We've got a blog coming out. Again, I don't know if it'll be before this podcast comes out or after, but we've got a great summary post of all of the great sync improvements we're working on. If you want to find me, you can find me at LinkedIn at srice08 or on Threads at msftstephen. And Arvin, where can people find you?
You can find me at on LinkedIn at /Arvind Mishra 1. As always, we love hearing from you. You, our listeners. You can reach us on Twitter at OneDrive. And if you've got a question, just tag it with #SyncUp, and we'll make sure we try to answer that. So you can visit our page for links, resources, and more at aka.ms/SyncUp.
Don't forget to subscribe to SyncUp wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Apple, Spotify. You can find us everywhere. If you enjoy SyncUp or find it useful, tell your friends, leave a rating. Word of mouth is the best way to get people engaged and help us grow the show. If you're curious about other Microsoft podcasts, check out aka.ms/Microsoft/podcasts. Thanks again to Lisa for making this podcast possible.
Thank you for listening to SyncUp. We've been your hosts, Stephen and Arvin, and we'll catch up with you next month.